to the show that undresses interesting subjects in and out of the news, media and life, whilst at the same time wallowing in used steak fries as the presidential election transition team continue to drink their own blood whilst attempting to get its act together. We here at Conroy's will keep calm and undress the subjects as varied as the annual round robin report. Do you have these things come to your family? Round robins every Christmas about how bloody blessed, wonderful and successful the Senders family been in the last year? Or thank you letters? Do we have to do thank you letters? What about Thanksgiving? We all did Thanksgiving the other day. What did we learn from Thanksgiving? Something new. What did we actually learn? American values is another thing that we're going to talk about. American values. And here's one for you. Can anyone be all bad? Another one that's come to mind that I'd like to discuss with the panel. What's the difference between American and British politicians? Yes, what's the difference? Joining the undressed debate this evening, the magic Dr. Orlando, that indefatigable Kathleen Taylor,
hello,
the legendary Tyler Durden, that marvel of sophistication, Jane Carter, and of course the Dark Lord of Transylvanian pheromones, Ivo Ivanov. My name is Jeremy Taylor. We're going to start with this first question, I think, for the panel. Every year, my wife and I receive a number of round-robin letters, often with photos describing how blessed and wonderful they and theirs were during the year. That so-and-so did such and such and achieved great heights in academia or work, like we care. Is it cultural tackiness? I don't know. In any event, we've decided to do one of our own this year. And please, with the panel, give us some spoof inspirations for our own version. And I provide our first entry as an example. We lost our goldfish Donald. It seems that one night recently, Rocky, our attack cat, chose to eat Donald, our old goldfish. And how do we know it was Rocky? Well, fortunately, we were blessed to be able to say goodbye to Donald properly, because Rocky had upchucked the front half of Donald on the living room carpet. So, some further ideas, please.
Well, see, I'm thinking you guys should just, I'm thinking that is way too middle class.
Yeah.
So you need to go full bore with the doom and depression story.
Okay.
I think little Timmy lost one of his crutches and now has to hobble to his begging stand. And I think...
yeah, but his takings have gone way up.
Uh-huh. Yeah, so I think you just...
So Timmy lost his crutch.
Uh-huh.
Right?
Uh-huh.
Lost his crutch.
Yes.
And
has to hobble.
And now when he has to go begging, he has to hobble all the way to his normal corner.
Right. But he's been blessed because his takings have gone up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And his lower body strength is just fantastic now.
Yeah. And my husband's on scheduled for his third colonoscopy, and it's exploratory, and we've got our fingers crossed, but it doesn't look good. The blessing is that he's dropped 2 pant sizes.
Woohoo!
There you go. Yep.
So colonoscopy dropped 2 pant sizes.
And he's even gotten bolder because instead of saying God bless us everyone, he's picked up the Dickens line of please sir, can I have some more?
Yeah. That works
He's
well.
been
Bold.
He's been able to have porridge 4 times this year.
Come on, some more ideas.
Okay, I just actually thought of something extremely depressing.
Okay.
I mean, extremely depressing. So you could put in there how somehow you lost your money in the stock market or something, and you were
Brexit, dude. Brexit.
There you go. Brexit took all your cash.
Do not laugh.
And it took your title.
Not funny.
And so as a result, you have sunk into this deep, deep depression, and you were going to kill yourself, and you had the pistol up to your temple, but thankfully God somehow stopped the gun because the firing pin didn't work. So you were blessed by God.
No,
God stopped
even better.
the firing pin.
Even better. He had the
that would be some depressing
is
crap.
dark.
He had the
man.
No.
Have we not met before?
Check it out. He's got the pistol up to his head and he's crying, tears coming down his face. But then he sees the Herbalife commercial.
Oh. There we go.
The herbal life. Right, and then what happened?
I don't know. I don't do the good stuff. I just think of the depressing
And then you went outside
side.
and planted
I've
a
never
tree.
seen the Herbalife commercial.
There is no Herbalife commercial.
Okay. I was like, I don't know. What is this
What's going on?
Most of your commercial would work.
Eva, we
Hello,
were
Evo.
wondering, these annual round robins that we get, right? From people. Could we give him some drink? And I'll have another
Different
ginger
glasses.
beer.
One filled with rum, one filled with Coke.
This
Yeah.
statement from their family members who tell of what little Johnny has done and how their family's this blessed and that blessed. And
Like the pictures, the family pictures,
Yeah.
and
The
then
newsletter,
and
yeah.
then with the
newsletter.
newsletter.
Yeah,
And
and they've
so-
all done such wonderful things.
I hate
It's
those.
really-
Yeah.
And so we decided this year we were going to do one. Kathleen and I are going to do
good.
one.
Yeah.
And we got our first story. You know how they're made up of stories, little stories.
You're messing with us.
And we lost our goldfish, Donald. We had a goldfish. He was called Donald. Donald. His
well,
name
no,
was.
he won the election.
No, this is our goldfish. He was called Donald, and
And
it
he was
seems
named after-
one night recently, our attack cat, Rocky the attack cat, chose to eat Donald, and we knew actually that it was Rocky because he upchucked the front half of Donald on the living room carpet.
A weird reversal. The pussy
Yeah.
grabs the Donald.
Oh.
How appropriate! You really did this in a
Yeah. Grab the.
Oh dear, oh dear.
Damn, Evo. Damn.
this stuff writes
How did
itself.
we all say that earlier and not make the link?
Yeah, you have to.
Oh
Donald,
my!
cat. So you actually did this.
We're going to send when we're looking for ideas. You see,
Yeah.
from the team.
Oh.
Of things that we can make it to send to various family members who will probably believe them, but they've got to be,
Yeah,
really awful.
yeah. So did you guys
Well,
already?
we came up with
Started contributing.
we came up with lots of really bad ideas.
I don't know what to suggest. Did you suggest anything?
Not really. Things that I do are really, really crass and bad, and they're dark.
Yeah.
Like,
I was gonna say, did you not hear what I said earlier?
yeah, it's even worse than that. So I can't even share.
Those are some big britches.
How
That
about-
must be so bad.
Can
Yeah.
you share
know.
something that you've done that's been particularly dark during the year?
My sister used to send me these texts and the emails. You've been touched by the angel. If you send these to 10 people, within the next 5 minutes, that kind of thing. You guys have seen those, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So
Oh, God.
annoying.
That is
Yeah.
actually
So annoying.
justifiable homicide if you do something about that, even of a sister.
Yeah.
And I just
So
kept
is-
saying, please.
Did you?
Text her back. Please stop sending me this shit. Please, I hate this
Because you're
crap.
being guilted if you
Yes.
don't. It was kind of.
Absolutely.
And I wouldn't do it. So finally, one day I was like, that's it. And I start texting her back. And eventually, as I'm texting, I start laughing. Now, here's why this is dark and very uncool. You've been touched by the cancer fairy. If you do not send this within 5 minutes to at least 4 to 5 people,
Yeah.
your nipples will fall off, your vag
Yeah.
will dry up, and
Yeah.
I mean like that kind of stuff. And I get
This is excellent.
text back from her saying, "What?" That's it. Exactly. Stop
brilliant.
sending me this
That is
shit.
brilliant.
That's awesome. Awesome.
So yeah,
I-
that's what I mean by
Now I kind of want
Yeah,
someone to actually
that's
send me one of
excellent.
those just so I can respond with that.
it's
That's
so
brilliant.
that was so not cool, and it was only because it was my sister. I'd never do that to anybody else.
I think that mostly those cards are for the people that actually put them together. Because if you think about it, we don't necessarily look back and catalog our successes in the past year or meaningful things that have happened to us, unless it's like a series of really bad events and we tend to remember what happened in the last year. But I think for people that make those cards, they kind of enjoy sitting down and kind of cataloging all the important events in their lives. So for them, it's good. I don't think for me, receiving that stuff, I don't really care because I have no emotional attachment mostly to those things. If I had to write a card for us, for our family, I'd probably put a picture of the family. And for me, the biggest event probably in the last year would be that we have gone through the hell of having a third child hit puberty. And and usually like it takes about 4 to 5 years to recover mentally and physically from going through your child's puberty. And unfortunately we have 3 children that are 4 or 5 years apart. So I
got a dozen
just
years of sheer
realize
craziness.
now that
Yeah.
that a large chunk of our lives,
You've lost a couple decades, buddy.
a large chunk of our lives has been dedicated to basically recovering from the nightmare, from the sticky swamp that is your child's puberty.
Dude,
you know,
drain the
and
swamp.
so I will
Drain
have
the
drain
swamp.
the swamp. So I'll have the picture of the family, and I'll say, flip the picture over and see that grumpy, pimply asshole staring at you from the middle of the picture that resembles our child. That actually is him. That actually is him, but he's a completely different person. And he has helped us this year. He has helped us realize something very important and something very hard to achieve: the definition of happiness. The definition of happiness, which we now understand, is exact opposite of the state that he has been in every single second of this past year. That's what happiness is.
P.S. You can be thankful that you're 2 states away.
But the thing about dealing with teenagers is that when they're 12, it's all, oh, hi, Dad, how'd that? Do you have a good day? Oh, what's the supper? Whatever. And you can watch the clock, right? Watch the clock, 11:30.
Yeah.
And they're 12. Everything's so do.
And then,
11:45. Do. 11:55. Do.
yeah.
Dong.
13
It's
years
midnight.
old.
13, and they go, you hate me.
Oh yeah.
Why do
that's-
you hate me?
everything
And it's only
you do
been
is
a minute.
wrong.
Not only
It's-
you hate me,
it's-
but I'm better than you.
Yes.
Yes. And
And
everything-
what's for supper? We've had supper. What's for supper? Well, we just cooked.
Oh, yeah,
What's
yeah.
for supper? Feed me now.
Everything
Why
you do
do you
is
hate
wrong.
me?
Everything you do is wrong. Everything is incorrect. You're inferior to everybody else. You can't do anything right. They eat like freaking vacuums.
You have a vacuum that eats?
Eats dirt. It's the same thing, but he does it with food, and so it's rough. And this is the first boy that we have hit puberty, so I gotta say it's a little better than the girls. It's a little better than the girls. It's not the wild tornadoes. The girls are up and downs, but man, you're right, not by much.
Yeah, you could fill your newsletter with stories of the kids' puberty.
Yeah.
That would be cheery. Yeah.
But guys
It's-
are broody and moody. Girls are just bitchy and whiny. That's what I've always noticed. It's a different
I
type.
was lucky. I inherited a daughter, and she was aged 18 at the time.
Oh yeah, you're lucky.
And
Lucked out.
so I only had 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, maybe 5, maybe 7 or 8 occasions where there were issues. For instance, walking into my living room one day, minding my own business, and there were about 7 very large guys there with daughter reclining on the couch, and these guys all standing around her.
Ouch.
And so I was a little taken aback, and I said, "Who are you then?" I thought, go on the offensive. Who are you then?
Who are you?
2 of the guys who are sort of, "Oh, hello, my name's Alec," or something like that, refused to ever come back in the house because they were frightened of me.
Good job.
Yeah, I thought I was quite pleased with myself, and so there were a few examples like that, But she's got over it, I suppose.
She probably
she'll
doesn't
get
even
you.
remember
Just
it.
don't eat any of the fruitcakes she sends you. Yeah.
But you don't have. You see, none of you are old enough to have teenage children. Well, Evo,
Mine are out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, my son's 16, and he is full-blown puberty, full-blown puberty, nightmare. And it just sucks because he was such a wonderful kid up until now, and just the contrast, I struggle with it because I don't know how to talk to him. He's a completely
Well, I
different
think
person.
a Christmas
Someday
letter.
he will return.
Yeah.
Write your whole
someday.
Christmas letter
Write a
out.
Christmas letter.
Talk about your difficulties and so on, and just send it to him because nobody else is going to want to read it. No.
Yeah.
what I think you've got to realise is that they don't owe you. They don't consider they owe you anything.
Oh, yeah.
And as Tyler says, they will come back. They do return after a little
It takes a while.
It's
but
it's an age range between 13 and anywhere from 21 to 24. This piece of shit year.
Yeah.
That's it. And I remember when my kids were born, and I used to think to myself, "Oh, this is going to be hard." And what I was thinking of was rocking them to sleep and staying up all night and everything. No, it's literally the teenage years is the worst part.
Why is it that we don't remember being these assholes?
I remember being an asshole.
Really?
I do.
Yeah, I kind of. Yeah,
because I got in trouble
bit.
for it.
I remember
I
a little
wasn't.
bit.
I was perfect.
See,
I remember
still am.
coming home one day with a
I was
girlfriend.
no
and
longer
it was
living
about
at home,
2:30
so I don't
in
have
the
any of those
afternoon.
recollections.
And I said to my mother, "Is there anything to eat?" Right, completely naively, and she went absolute banzai. What do you think this is? A fucking restaurant?
Your mother?
Yeah, she didn't say fucking. She said something similar. This isn't a bloody.
She probably
And then my
said
father
sodding.
hurt. My father must have been a Saturday.
Yeah.
The weekend. Father comes in, and these two went off on me. And this poor girl didn't know what to do.
You'd skipped dinner,
And,
right?
and we'd missed lunch, and I could have had a sandwich or something, but I used these at mortal wars. Well, 1,000 years later, when I have my children, they do the same thing.
Jeremy,
What's for
I'm listening
tea?
to that story, and it really sounds like you walked in right after the sex trapeze had broken for your parents. So they were probably angry about something
Thank you for that
entirely
picture.
different.
Yeah, I kind of see that actually.
Oh.
I'm gonna have to agree with Lewis on that.
Okay.
You know what's really devastating for the new generation of teenage boys? I realized that we had heavy metal.
That was helpful.
That was
that
really
was very
helpful.
helpful. Yeah.
And they've got Justin Bieber.
They got Justin Bieber. And
Yes.
man, we had the perfect cathartic experience. Go there, bang your head, scream, jump, watch Iron Maiden, be an idiot, and now they've got nothing.
That's
They've got
true.
nothing. Yeah.
Well, moving on from this, and every year there comes a time shortly after Christmas, a toxic time, I consider it to be.
Oh yeah.
I call it thank you letter time. As a child, my siblings and I were forced to sit at the dining room table to write and rewrite thank yous to letters to aunts and uncles whose names we couldn't spell. And as my children have grown, those same archaic expectations from relatives still lurk out there. My brother, for example, actually used to pre-write his thank you letter with gaps for names for the appropriate uncles
That's
and aunts.
smart.
Right?
That's excellent.
And my mother sussed eventually, this is what he did, that he had this stack of pre-written letters and she tore them all up. So panelled, thank you letters, email, text, phone calls. What's the correct thing to do when an auntie sends you, $20 or $50 or something for Christmas, or sends the kids? What should the kids do? Should they write a thank you letter, email, text, telephone? What's appropriate?
It's a generational thing, and luckily so, because it's so outdated. Don't get me wrong. I still write thank you letters for any of my relatives over the age of 40 because they expect it. They think it is the kindness, the nicety that is behind it. But I mean, hell, even my grandma, she won't go anywhere without a formal invite. I mean, she has to have an invite to go someplace. So no, anybody else though, moms, sisters, brothers, that kind of stuff, they get texts, calls. Hey, thank you so much for that. And it's sufficient for us.
Yeah.
Texts and calls. Lewis.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Text, call, Facebook poke.
I think you kind of hit the nail on the head, Jeremy, when you said that your brother used to leave gaps in his letters for names. Well, we live in the information age. We have templates. We have templates. You can just get a template and just plug in the name. Nowadays, it's so much easier than actually writing a letter with gaps. But what makes it even easier, just grab one of our president-elect's tweets. Get one of his tweets and just modify it a little bit. Like, oh, and so and so, you send me $20. How dare you? How dare you didn't send me? How dare you didn't send me 40? Apologize. Sad. That's it. And just put in the name. Sad.
With an exclamation point.
Tyler.
With an exclamation.
What do you reckon?
Honestly, I would say we need to continue writing thank you letters, to be honest,
what?
because
Say again?
we need to continue writing thank you letters. Because if you look at today's generation, the younger generation, they number one, they don't have any social grace and social mores whatsoever. They don't know how to actually respect people. They don't understand that they are not special, that they're just one of many people who are, as everyone else, is a unique individual snowflake. And number two, their handwriting and their ability to actually write, period, is horrible.
Hell, they
It
don't
is
even know how
awful.
to address a letter.
Exactly. They don't know how to address a letter. They don't know how to use punctuation. They don't know how to use capital letters in
Why are we
sentences.
blaming the kids for all this, though?
Yeah.
Hold on for a
Because
second.
as a parent, I first learned how to read and write, not from my teacher, but from my parents.
Right.
But not now. Parents, they're not doing this.
Yeah,
Well,
but
who is to blame then, Lewis?
well, you obviously
Microsoft Word.
Exactly. Like there's a this notion that the kids don't have any social mores, which, quite honestly, on one hand, I agree with. On the other hand, if we're not enforcing that our kids know that stuff, then why are we angry that our kids don't know that stuff?
Isn't that what?
Well, you can't fix that
Tyler?
by demanding they write thank you letters. That's not going to do it.
Yeah. I mean,
it's just,
I hear what you're saying. I'm just put it this way. I have never gotten a thank you letter and thought, this kid knows how to appropriately accept a gift. And on the other hand, I've never gotten a thank you letter and thought, or I've not gotten a thank you letter and thought, what an ungracious kid. Like,
yeah.
kids just don't do that.
Well, I can
No.
tell you, I've had
with
students
you.
who've written me thank you letters,
Uh-huh.
and those students I'm going to remember for years upon years,
Right.
extremely fondly. Whereas
Uh-huh.
kids who maybe were great kids, but I'm probably not going to remember them nearly as fondly or as quickly or as easily because
Right.
I have nothing to remember them by. Because the idea of the fact that this one student wrote me a letter and this one didn't, the student who wrote me a letter, I'm going to have so much more respect for that student because they're going to thank me for, maybe not even for a gift I gave them. Maybe they're just going to thank me for teaching them and educating them and getting them ready for life in general.
So then the letter is special by fact that it's special.
yeah. It's not an automatic thank you for a Christmas gift that they had to write.
Well,
Those aren't special.
Nowadays, it's an extra step. You're taking an extra step, so that's why it's more special.
Okay, I see what you guys are saying. Yes, I do agree. If it's something where you just rudimentary, just have to always do it with a Christmas gift.
Yeah.
you can probably get away with just a text or something. But the idea of thanking someone, if it's not Christmas and it's not your birthday, but someone does something for you that's very nice and that's very genuine, and they go out of their way to help you, you need to write a thank you note for that.
Can I agree with you, and I'm going to use this example as an indication of a time where I should have written a thank you letter. Something very awesome happened to me.
Hey man, you're welcome to it.
I got a call on Thanksgiving from this guy, Mr. Ivo Ivanov.
Yeah.
Completely out of the blue. He's actually hundreds of miles away dealing with family. And I guess because he likes me, he actually gave me a call on Thanksgiving. That was the highlight of my day. And I didn't tell you that at the time, but it really, really was. And I
Why
literally
did he call
spent...
me?
Why did he call us? He never called me. He didn't call me, you bastard.
Look at that body.
That's valid.
What did he
Look
say
at
to
his
you?
neckline.
No, that was a really special part of my day, and I really, really appreciate it. And I probably should have I don't know, done something. But yeah.
So
Well,
if I
when
call
he
you tonight
called
at 2
me
a.m.
actually on Thanksgiving just about lunchtime, and
Well, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about me. I'm talking about the fact that it was a big deal to me.
Because I asked him, did you call Lewis? And he said, yeah. Did you remember? I said, because we're... But he didn't call you, did he? No, you see, but he did, no.
Nobody called me.
Don't
I sat at home alone and watched
Isn't
football.
that
all day.
sad?
Oh,
Isn't
you
that sad?
lucky
That was
son of a
sad,
gun.
that was.
Yeah.
Wasn't that sad? No one called him.
Thank you card is how I won
Including my
over my
family.
in-laws.
I have an interesting point to make. There's an amazing series called Black Mirror. I personally don't like it very much because it's extremely dark. It's a version of the Twilight Zone. It started in Britain. Black Mirror is a British show
They
that
can
now
do dark like nobody else. Yeah.
but
Oh, we
it's,
can do dark.
it's really
Oh, yes.
it's Twilight Zone without the element of humor in it. It's all super dark, and always the end is very dark. No, but there was one episode that just blew me away, and it had to do with your question about the thank yous in the modern age. It was this society, probably removed 10 or 20 years from ours in the future, where basically they had taken the thank you to an extreme. And everybody was walking with their mobile devices and ranking everybody with 1 to 5 stars based on how kind and nice they are. And so everybody's walking around with a fake smile on their face, and everybody. So this becomes the new religion, the moral
Fiber, the moral spine, yeah.
fiber of the society, where everybody walks around and is super nice to everybody, hoping that will rank them high. Because if you're ranked high, you have a better job, you get paid more, you get approved for loans, you can drive a better car, you can get a better apartment, but only if you have 5 stars consistently. So that had twisted the society to a place. It had twisted the society up to a place where everybody was fake. And everybody was doing things forcefully against their nature sometimes, just to gather more and more and more stars. So the star ranking had become the thank you of the modern society. Now, ironically, the show ended, and I was watching it on Netflix.
So it is on Netflix.
I believe it was on Netflix.
Yeah.
And as soon as it ended,
That's a good series.
ironically, when it ended, this episode. The first thing that shows up on Netflix is rank this rank this 1 to 5 stars. So I was like, what the heck?
That's fantastic.
So yeah,
So I'll tell you what.
Wow.
Tell me, because I'm English and Ivo has the same issue.
He's
we
English too?
we don't. Well, he's Bulgarian.
yeah.
We don't do Thanksgiving or 4th of July. And people say to me, well, what do you do on Thanksgiving? We say, well, we don't.
You just sit
No, it
around
seems
and
to throw
bemoan the
people.
fact that the American
No, we
that the
go to-
America
we have
doesn't
a-
belong to you
Thursday.
anymore. Yeah.
It's just a Thursday. We do what you do on Thursdays. So I'd like to ask the panel, particularly the Americans, with Thanksgiving out of the way, what did you, my fellow undressed, learn this Thanksgiving? What specific one thing did you learn this Thanksgiving? And I'll start with Tyler.
Well, my answer is quite simple. I learned nothing. I'm not going to lie.
You
because-
watched football, so didn't you learn
That's
who,
right. I did.
who won?
I learned a little bit about the NFL, and I learned some scores in some games. That's true. I did. I learned my cat's kind of an ass. I learned that as well. But as far as
You
Thanksgiving,
learned something about your cat's ass.
no, he is an ass.
Oh, right.
He likes to bitch a lot.
Right.
Yeah, especially when he. Well, never mind. But as far as Thanksgiving, I've never really understood Thanksgiving just because I don't really understand when within a given culture you have to have a designated day to thank people and be thankful for the things you have in your life. Why can't you do this any other day? Why can't you just do this every single day?
Because you
But
don't
no,
have
you
time
to
off
have-
from work.
That is entirely it.
Like Valentine's Day.
Who can go visit their family in the middle of the week when it's not a holiday, a national holiday?
Well, one of the things I wondered is why is it a Thursday, not a Friday or a Monday? You know, but that's another story. So, Lewis, what thing did you learn this year?
I learned with absolute certainty that there is a limit to how many fried onions you can add to green bean casserole.
Really? That's good. I wouldn't have thought that was so.
I was in that same boat. I did not think. I thought it was. I
Two
thought there
green
was a
beans, 15
symptotic
fried
relationship.
onions. That sounds
between-
We too found this out. We had 2 batches. One with tons in it and one with just the regular amount.
Right.
Man, it was just too much.
Yes.
Yeah.
I could leave the green beans out entirely. That's okay.
So, Jane, what did you learn?
I
You're not
learned-
allowed to talk about onions.
Okay, I learned that no matter where I am in my life, that no matter how many people prepare the meal, the women clean up. It doesn't matter
I am coming to your house
if the
next
fellas
Thanksgiving.
make the turkey, carve, etc., etc. As soon as everybody's done eating, they go sit down.
But
And we clean up.
I want to put to you, and I put this to you, you have been, you probably noticed this yourself, of the female persuasion for a few years now. And so you've learned that is what happens in life. That is how the world goes around.
Oh, really?
And
Okay.
So what was
Just
the
wait till
news?
next
When are you
year,
getting
Mr.
divorced?
Taylor.
what was the new thing that you learnt this year?
I was serious. I mean, literally, I had an epiphany at the damn sink where I was like, where the hell did they go? Why am I the one who feels guilty for being at somebody's house standing here cleaning and nobody else seems to feel guilty of the meal? Yes, I know. It's the same thing as let the kids go first, then the men, and then the girls eat.
Epiphany at the Sink's a great name for a punk band.
That's my
That does not
dad's
happen.
family.
Um,
My dad's
yeah.
family still does that shit.
You know, I learned something extremely valuable, even though I don't, like you said, we don't have necessarily Thanksgiving in the outside of the United States. But what I've learned is celebrate Thanksgiving on a Friday, on a horrible Black Friday when everybody's outside and you don't want to be outside on the streets because it's madness. I ended up in Austin, Texas for Thanksgiving. We celebrated on Friday. It was heaven on Thursday, going around Austin, no traffic, beautiful.
Nothing open.
We went to it was open. We went to a fantastic restaurant with beach volleyball set up outside. It was semi-empty, no people, no traffic, no crowd. 6th Street was beautiful. Went to the movies. It was great. On Friday, when the madness was outside, we stayed home and celebrated Thanksgiving. It was perfect.
This is genius.
Yes, it
Genius!
is. Yes, it is.
It's absolutely genius. The streets were empty. We went downtown. We kayaked on the Colorado River, downtown Austin, and there was nobody. It was perfect.
We learnt a long time ago that those of us that don't do football, right, if you want to go to the Cheesecake Factory in Kansas City or somewhere like that, then the night of the Super Bowl is the best night to go.
Oh, yeah.
Because the staff will be watching the Super Bowl in the theatre, so they will recount to you the highs and lows. There's no queue, and you get to walk in, kaboom.
Oh yeah, if you don't care about Super Bowl, absolutely, that's the way to go.
The thing
You're
I
right.
learnt, I do most of the cooking in our family, and I learnt that trying to cheat and cook the turkey the night before doesn't work. I figured that so I'd be able to do some food on the morning of, but the turkey I did the night before, not going to do that again.
Yeah, I've learned that the Swanson Hungry Man turkey dinner, if you try and serve it that day, that doesn't work either.
No. But I do like Hungry Man at $3.50 a go.
Oh yeah, I mean it's very filling.
It is.
Yeah.
And at Christmas you can have two, can't you? Treat yourself to two.
Yes, you can.
To have to, and then the other thing you could do with Hungry Man, which is also important, is when you peel the plastic back, always put a little knob of butter on the potatoes and on the vegetables.
I like it when you use words like knob.
No,
I know, I thought that's all I heard.
Yeah.
He said knob, and that's all I heard.
Nobby.
Yeah, Knob of Butter is a great name for a porn movie.
Or the knobs. Now look, you Americans, this is again one for the Americans. I just want to know. So imagine you're in a foreign country, perhaps at a meal, maybe you're at a meal or something like that, and you're asked after the election of Trump to explain what are your American values? What are your favorite American values? So what do you think? I mean, who's the most American here?
That's
Lewis. Lewis, you were brought
guys
up in
picked the black
East
dude.
St. Louis,
Yeah.
named after your family, Lewis.
Yeah, that's how that works.
Yeah.
This is a very good question.
It is a very good question. Yeah, and I'll tell you real quick why.
Go ahead.
Because in the past, when I had to explain to foreign friends of mine what makes America different and great and fantastic, I would always start with the fact that it's a melting pot and it's the most tolerant country to immigrants and people can go there and pursue their dream from any part of the world. I can't fucking do that anymore.
Yeah.
I
No.
can't start my explanation
Yeah.
with this anymore.
And there is almost nothing that you can say that we typically identify with, like the American dream or the American ideal, that cannot be summarily dismissed with one word: Trump.
Yeah.
There's almost
Well, there's certain qualities of America that are obviously there but aren't always so great. I mean, Americans are possibly the most gullible people on earth. Don't you think?
Yeah. No, but we're talking. He's asking us what's the great things. The great.
Yeah,
what are
today,
the great things?
We are
Election of
greatly
Trump.
gullible.
If,
I
no,
mean,
no. But
you
I
know
mean,
what
seriously, if we're talking to someone from Uzbekistan, those assholes, and you are trying to describe to them why America is idyllic, it becomes very hard when you have this hardline isolationist.
Yeah. Yes.
Like all of those.
Well,
everything
maybe there's a flaw in the premise here.
It's really
America is not idyllic.
No, here's what he's saying. What
No,
Jeremy's
let's
question is
just repeat.
genius.
Yeah, because I've said values. I didn't say ideal.
He said values, and it's stunning that the new cabinet and the new government here and the new president is going to be so obscenely un-American and so contrary to those values that that I as a foreigner, every time I get in an argument with somebody in Europe and they're asking me, why is America, what about America? And I start with this. I start, hey, what other place in the world can you go and be met without prejudice and be given the keys to the dream? What is like in Europe we have these ancient vendettas and hatred against neighbors and all kinds of. We are isolationists in Europe, and we hate our neighbors, and we have so much history of hate. And I say, there's no hate between Kansas and Missouri. There is, but there's no movement to secede or like. In Spain, goodness, you're familiar with the situation there with the Basques and in Barcelona and all that stuff.
But we have had domestic terrorism on the rise for years and years and years.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's still different than
We had a
than
civil war.
Having a president. No, but even that is still different than a president that epitomizes the opposite of what we consider to be American values.
Well, there's something to think about, though, because when you mentioned the president, you mentioned having civil war and domestic terrorism. I think because I had a tough time with this question when I was looking at it earlier today. And when I look at an American value, the one American value that I would say is patriotism. And let me explain this. Patriotism is a very subjective term. Just as the people who voted for Trump consider themselves very patriotic because they feel that the country is broken, they feel like the system is broken, they want America, hate to say this, to use Trump's phrase, to be great again. You look at the people who are demonstrating against the election and against the Electoral College and against Trump's winning the election, they're doing because they feel they are very patriotic and trying to be patriotic for the country. So I think patriotism is a very strong American value. Unfortunately, though, it is just like any value. It's very subjective because
Does that
it can
guy
be.
not look like Jeb Bush that just walked in? Right as
Jeb.
Low energy.
Because
Very low energy.
Because it can be interpreted any way. Because people, you always, to an extent, they can always create an action and use patriotism as the kind of the impetus for that action.
You will find patriotism of exactly the same level in nearly every country of the world.
That's
including
true.
North Korea.
Yeah.
I would say yes and no.
Ask me about this.
Yeah.
Why is America so in your face with their patriotism? You guys fly your flags when there's nothing special to fly them about. You
Look
guys
at a
have it on
Scot, for God's
stuff
sake.
like that.
No, there's
So-
a Reddit theme that goes on. It's like a Reddit Ask Us Anything question, and one of the questions that they pose for the other Reddit users is, what are the things that confuse you about America? And the question that always gets risen to the very top of the level is, why do Americans love their flag so much?
Well,
Because Americans, we think as a culture that we are special. That's where I think.
Well, we
that's why I
are.
think
I'm here.
patriotism. Of course. With that neckline, I understand. That's why when I say patriotism, it's because to an extent we just think we are so just valued and we are so special.
But it is true to say, is it not true to say, it is true to say that the American anthem about the flag still being there and flying and everything, right?
Right.
You know that, you've heard that one,
And
you
our
know the
flag was
words.
still there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Yeah. It was in fact written on a British warship.
well,
I mean, so you don't actually get everything
and actually,
right,
it's a drinking song, actually.
Well,
Yes.
true.
Yeah, I mean,
True that.
every country has patriotism. It's what makes countries fight for it. their own country.
Every country does.
Yeah.
Well, you want
And
to know
they all
about
have the
patriotism.
same
You want
level of
to
it.
go
But I
talk
would
to
say
the
our
French.
patriotism is
we have
just
a
almost
higher level
let's-
of it.
You know,
We're so in your
Okay,
face. It's
Jeremy,
ridiculous.
disgusting level.
I have an idea. I haven't personally considered doing this before, just this very moment. If we were going to answer your question 2 months ago, how would we describe America as being a great country? I would not have a problem with describing that, because even though what are my favorite American values? I would not have a problem answering that question, because I don't have this fantastic example of a leader of a country that is the opposite of all of those things. America is founded, at least on the idea that all people are created equal.
And then that's where you got it wrong, you see, and that's one of the reasons we left, in fact, a couple of hundred
left.
years.
We didn't
left.
kick you out.
No, we left. And in fact, you did a deal with the French, which you will yet regret. But you wanted to do all this equal stuff, and you got that wrong, didn't you? I mean,
Well, this is the
you could have had a
problem.
king and a queen. You'd have had the longest-serving queen, wouldn't you? I mean,
Hey,
Well, we've got
Melania is working
RuPaul.
on that.
You know, one of the things that puzzles people when we're talking about patriotism, puzzles people abroad a lot, is, and this is very, very timely, because people are puzzled by the American anthem being played before every sporting event. This doesn't happen anywhere else in the world. No
Yes,
other
it
country does that. No, they
At the
don't.
Olympics. Oh yeah, okay, I'd go along with that.
well,
No,
it's
no, no,
'cause-
In the
it's
Olympics,
'cause-
it's
You,
only
you mean
played
when
for
somebody
the
gets a
winner.
gold medal?
Yeah.
No, that's okay. That's okay. You've won the gold medal.
But
Your
like
country.
any high school sport,
No, before,
I see what you're saying.
high school
before
game,
every game,
you have to stand.
NFL, NBA, MLB.
It's because they need reminding, Evo. That's what it is. We've had countries. Our countries go back
No.
1,000 years.
No,
We
those
don't
are-
need reminding people having a flag
See,
going
those
up.
are guys, those professionals that are playing the game. They're playing in baseball 120, I don't know, how many, 160 games.
162 games.
162 games a year, and every time they play, these are people just going to work. That means if I'm a mechanic, before I start work, I'm going to play the national anthem.
You're giving Trump ideas already.
Look, I have the feeling that what
like, that's
many
the best
Americans
idea, but
consider to be superb patriotism is actually American arrogance.
Jingoism.
Yeah.
Exceptionalism.
No. It's arrogance.
I don't know. I mean, it's an interesting tradition for sure, and it's poorly understood around the world. Why
I think
in
it's
the world
poorly
are you?
understood here.
Let me ask
Well,
a question of the panel.
Kaepernick, very
Moving
much so.
on, so slightly, but same theme. Can anyone, thinking of Hitler or Castro or whoever, can anyone be all bad?
Like like a villain.
Well, I'm just wondering, because Hitler did all these horrible things to people, and yet we are still driving around in VWs, which was there is no doubt that was his idea.
and we still carry the torch to start the Olympics. That was
yeah,
Hitler.
Ferdinand
Yeah.
Porsche did his thing on.
He was
Hitler's
a
orders.
very good ideas guy, a salesman, a
Hitler?
brander. Who does that remind you of?
Dual carriageways. That was Hitler getting people to one place or another. Motorways,
Autobahn.
fast motorways, autobahns.
Oh yeah, nobody. I mean, you're talking about legacy or character or a person.
Well, what I'm saying is, were they all bad? So you know that Hitler's a monster, right? You know that Castro was a monster.
Yeah.
And yet there was free healthcare at the point of delivery.
Yeah.
That they train more doctors than any other country.
It's funny you bring this up, because with my students, when we start talking about World War II and we start talking about Adolf Hitler and the rise of Hitler, clearly they know Hitler was a monster, but I have to teach them as a historian. One of the toughest things we have to do is we have to look at history and be objective. And so I have to basically I will pose the question to them: what about all the good things Hitler did? And they look at me like I'm crazy. But again, I'm trying to teach them that you have to be an objective individual if you're truly going to study history.
Yeah.
To mention the fact, and I I point this out all the time. I'm like, do you really think that he thought himself a monster?
No.
He believed everything
Yep.
he was doing was for the
Sure
right.
did.
And have you read Mein Kampf, My Struggle?
I have.
It's interesting because when you read the book, you realize the conditions that pushed him to become the monster that he was. You start to realize that there's historical.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
He was the right man at the right place at the right time.
At the right time.
But there are so many different reasons that kind of led to Hitler's rising that if just one of those had been different, he wouldn't have been there at all.
And I often, and a lot of movies ask the question, if you could go back in time, would you kill Hitler? No, go back in time and change just one of those conditions. Just nudge him in the other direction, and he's not going to turn into this.
Solve the Great Depression problem in Germany, and Hitler would not be elected.
So hold on, I got a slightly different take on this question though. We're talking about Hitler, who's relatively well known. We can talk about the bad things that he's done, and we can talk about some of the good things he's done. What about people that don't fit that bill? Like somebody that comes to my mind pretty much immediately, Jeffrey Dahmer. Like,
Actually, okay. Let's use him as an example.
Let's go with Jeffrey
because
Dahmer.
During his whole trial, there were neighbors who testified that we never saw any negative things with him. He was always very nice to us and very kind to us, and they had no idea that he was this very dark, evil, disturbed individual.
Yeah.
And so,
well, but there's a difference between the absence of bad and good.
With him, I think there was pathology. There was some pathology. Just.
Could you say? Would you be comfortable saying that there are aspects of Jeffrey Dahmer that are good?
See, I am.
Does
not,
everybody know who Jeffrey Dahmer is?
I am not very, very familiar with his childhood, with his background, but I dare to say, if you can travel back in time and just relocate him so he doesn't grow up in Milwaukee,
Right.
he would be a normal person.
Holy shit, I've been there. I was able to survive it for about 13 months.
See what I mean? No, with Hitler, if you look back at his childhood and his relationship with his father.
his father was horrible. He's a horrible man.
Yeah, the conflicts and the death of his siblings at childhood, especially the death of his little brother. And when you read My Struggle, you realize how traumatic this was and how this reshaped him from the inside out and just turned him into a very dark, very introverted person. Before that, he was a kind child. Then he had an artistic, as you all know, he had an artistic inclination. He was a good artist. He wasn't good enough to, and again, in My Struggle, you read it, Mein Kampf, he didn't make it to the art academy. But his advisor told him, go and study architecture because you will be a good architect. And he considered it for a while. He was very close to going to architecture, and that would have probably changed his journey.
These are all exculpatory information as to why he wasn't pure evil.
Well, yes, but see, the things also, think about World War I, where he participated in World War I and risked his life and was decorated and all that stuff. But he comes back and the entire country is being devastated. As you know, the reparations and contributions they had to pay would have enslaved the people of Germany for 100 years, basically. So these conditions...
World War I until...
That made the National
ago.
Socialist Party possible, and him possible.
Yeah, but this is still
hang on a minute.
This is
You
still down
Americans,
here,
we
and I
talk
think the question is up here. The question is there such a thing as an all bad guy?
No, there's no such thing as someone born evil. There's no. I would say there's no such thing.
No.
I would fall in the same camp with Evo and say that childhood
Yeah.
is probably the biggest thing that's going to shape a person.
Very
All
important.
bad women. Okay, let's take control of this.
And guys, imagine if Hitler grew up in Milwaukee. I mean, there would be no world right now. We'd just all be dead.
Well, just what happened if Fidel Castro, if he'd actually gotten a contract,
Baseball team.
Exactly, to
Yeah.
go be a pitcher. That's what he was trying to do.
Yes, yes. And Fidel had some good qualities as a person as well, and nobody's purely evil, except for probably Peyton Manning. But everybody else is pretty much savable.
Here's a question for you. Thinking of Brexit and the Trump election, What's the difference between British and American politicians who both wrongly predicted the outcome? For example, is it that Brits are more like eloquent Bond villains and the Americans more like professional wrestlers? Lewis.
So I heard this theory. I was listening to this different podcast, and there were two comedians, and they were talking about these two things. And the woman who grew up in Britain said that there was essentially no difference between Boris Johnson and Donald Trump, that they were the same guy.
No.
And the American said, no, there is an eloquence to your politicians that Trump just simply doesn't have. And the British woman wanted to argue the point and say, no, they are the same. But then she thought about it and she said, you know what? No, there's this boisterous kind of cartoonish quality to Trump that our folks just don't have. At which point she made the notion that their villains, their political villains, are Bondian.
Yeah.
And
ours are wrestlers.
Yeah, they are.
Oh, that's very good.
Yeah.
Yes, that's very
so
true.
I thought this was pretty interesting,
Yeah.
and I was actually kind of curious. I'm a pro wrestling fan, and I'm a Bond fan. So this analogy fit very, very well for me.
Okay.
And it tries to take into account, at least I think it does. It tries to take into account the affinity that Americans have for British speak anyway. We're kind of lulled into thinking that Brits are a little bit smarter and a little bit cooler. That's why, all the bad guys in the Star Wars movies all have the British accents.
But we are, dear boy, we are.
Yes.
Yeah. My daughter in the UK, after the Brexit vote, we agreed that the Brits had lost the privilege of saying they were smarter than Americans.
Well,
until November.
It was just for a couple of months.
But for a couple of months.
Yeah.
So I took that as there is something a little bit more sinister and calculated about what we saw on the other side of the pond versus what we're seeing here. What we saw here was a blatant call to racism, a blatant call to xenophobia,
Just look at what some of the far right parties do in the UK. They're blatant.
Well, and
Very
this is ultimately my question: is it just as blatant there, or does it just seem less so because we have our affinity?
No, it's blatant. Definitely blatant.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah, very blatant.
Our guy just has lower level vocabulary and intelligence, but it's about
He's
the
got
same
fantastic
thing.
hair, though.
He is, yeah.
Tremendous hair.
We also have a bizarre fixation in this country and appreciation of douchebags and assholes.
Yes.
I mean, think about Charlie Sheen and
I want to leave you on the thought, we've got to wind you up now today, but the thought that the Americans have actually elected someone who uses the word bigly.
Yeah.
Yeah. It does.
I'm not even sure if it's actually a real word, but bigly.
He's left
Can
Trump in the
I
dust.
just interject one more little thing? One of my favorite little
My
memes
dear boy.
floating around on Facebook right now is a meme that's just got the picture of Donald Trump, and it says, "You have a president that believes that millions of people voted illegally and doesn't want to recount." I'll let that sink in.
Yeah, brilliant.
If you believe
that's
that, you would
crazy.
want to recount. Yeah.
You've been listening to Wednesday Night Undressed here at Conroy's Emporium. Want to thank the team, the Magic Dr. Orlando, the indefatigable Kathleen Taylor, that legend Tyler Durden, and the marvel of sophistication Miss Jane Carter. The Dark Lord of Transylvanian Pheromones, Evo Evenus, was with us. And we want to thank our engineers, Neil Rasmussen and Eric Holcomb, although Neil Rasmussen actually has done nothing all day. Has been sitting up in the audience drinking beer with some women, which is Neil's way. And Eric Holcomb has been left to do the editing and sound. So Tom Conroy, of course, for letting us do this every week. You must try his steak fries. You don't even have to buy the steak fries. If you look down the back of a few chairs, you can find them because they're still there. And probably it's the coolest pub in the region. From me, your host, Jeremy Taylor, I should say you're very naughty for listening, but we will see you next time here on WednesdayNightUndressed.com in front of a live audience.
Yay.